2028. So at hopefully the earliest. And they are rising in costs. Our equipment replacement fund is healthy in that reserve right there. We have about $1.6 million in the bank. Now, don't have a heart attack, but the ladder trucks right now, the newer ones are going for about 2.4. So we have a gap there to cover. And what we found is that we believe if we were able to sell our backup ladder truck, and right now the average on what we're seeing would be around $300,000. We still think that we could collect on the ladder truck even with its age. That would close that gap just a little bit closer, so that when we do need to go through the sales agreement for a new ladder truck and actually begin the build, we're that much closer, and then we can work with the financing options on what that looks like. So again, this is a 20-year-old ladder truck. We're feeling comfortable not having a reserve at this point. Richland and Kennewick run their cities without a reserve, and what we really rely on is that master mutual aid agreement, which helps us in the event that we need a ladder truck to come into our jurisdiction. If the current one has a mechanical failure or needs maintenance or anything like that, we do have that ability to pull from different agencies within the region. So we feel comfortable after an analysis with Chief Crowley and Deputy Chief Harkins. We feel comfortable that we will have the operational capacity from our neighbors if we need it. Our current ladder truck, it is incurring some more maintenance costs, which is going to be normal, but we feel pretty comfortable that the one we have right now is going to carry us through for the next 3 or 4 years until we can get a newer one put in its place. So with that, my ask and proposal tonight is to put this through the sales process. We want to use a company, it's a consignment company, to assist us with this sale. What they'll do is advertise it nationwide and then work through the sales process with us. But that's the request we have for tonight, is the ability to sell our reserve ladder truck as well to close the gap on the purchase of a new one.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Do we have any questions or comments from council? Mr. Prowse?
Yeah, the only question that I had was that we bought this a few years ago, and now we're trying to sell it to get some money. And so I hope we're buying equipment that we're going to be needing for a longer duration of time. So I guess if I can get some insights on that, that'd be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can certainly speak to that, Mr. Prowse. Appreciate the question. The new ladder or new aerial trucks, new fire engines that we just purchased, they're good for that 20-year mark. And that process of planning, we really try and start that 5, 6, 7 years out. But with the proper maintenance, and our shops do a very, very good job. And we have additional contractors in the area that can help us out that specialize in these apparatus. So we feel comfortable that moving forward with these new engines, they're designed to last a long time. We do beat them up, but they do last. The predicted lifespan on these is that 20-year mark. And when we go through, like I said, we're taking a look at technology, what will last, and we sole source with Pierce. And it's the biggest name in the industry, and you know they're workhorses, so we know we can rely on them. But well understood, and I think going forward, the next ladder truck is going to last us quite some time.
Thank you. Mr. Prowse, that satisfy?
Appreciate it. Thank you for the insight.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none, Mr. Milne.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 4587, declaring city-owned personal property as surplus, approving the method of disposal, and further authorize the interim city manager to sell the property through consignment.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Milne, second by Ms. Blaisdell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none, that too passes unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. With that moves us on to item number 10, which is unfinished business. See none, and I don't see a light from staff, so I'm assuming there is none. Then that moves us on to number 11, which is new business. Again, not seeing any lights from staff, so I assume we're good there. And that moves us on to item number 12, which is miscellaneous discussion. I do see Mr. Zabel's light on.
So good evening, Mayor, Council. Apologies there on 8A and 9A. The difference between those is the boat was a value of over $50,000, and you were transferring it to another agency, so it required the public hearing. The other one is just an outright sale, the engine itself, so that's why the difference. And then secondly, a couple of things. I did get a note out earlier today, but all of you may not have received it, but the contractor's been hired to work on downtown cleanup. That work started today, already making an impact downtown. And I know that's something council had expressed concern about in recent weeks, so staff's been working on pulling that together. Thank you to Director Rice. And then secondly, city participated in the State Department of Agricultural Japanese beetle spray program. So all of our city properties, or a number of our city properties, were sprayed with the beetle containment area on late last week. So in case you get a question from a community member or what have you. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Do we have any, Mr. Prowse, do you have anything?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from council? I'll just simply note that I do know that in a couple weeks we have an Easter egg hunt coming up. I don't have those details right in front of me. I know it's the 19th, I believe, at noon at one of the parks. We'll get more details on that, and I just I'm excited to be part of that. I know my kid's got a baseball game, but I'm hopeful to run over and catch, and celebrate something that's critical in my life, which is the resurrection of my Savior Jesus Christ. And I'm extremely grateful for that opportunity that the city has to celebrate Easter as a community, and so I'm excited for that. So I appreciate the staff putting that together. With that moves us on to: are we still intending to do our exec session?
Yes.
Is our legal counsel joining us electronically?
Electronically,
okay.
yes.
All right, so I just want to make sure I got the right folks. So we are on to number 13, which is executive session. It's discussion with legal counsel about current or potential litigation under Revised Code of Washington 42.30.110, subsection 1, Roman numeral 1, or I. Listed for 8 minutes. We're going to have the city manager, deputy city manager, assistant city manager?
We're going to have the assistant city manager in the first to represent staff, the first item.
Okay.
And then the second item, it'll be myself and the deputy city manager.
Okay, so.
And the chief.
And the fire chief or
police chief? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. All right, so in the first, we're going to have the city manager, deputy city manager, assistant city manager, police chief? Okay. Just the assistant city manager in the first. Okay, so in the first, we're going to have the assistant city manager. In the second, we're going to have the city manager, deputy city manager, assistant city manager, and police chief in the second. Legal counsel being both. Slated for 8 minutes. We are going to call that 7:47 since we're halfway through this minute. So we'll be back roughly at 7:47. It is 7:55. We have returned from executive session with no action taken. And with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us. Good evening and welcome to the City of Pasco Council special meeting on Monday, April 14th, 2025. The council thanks you for being a part of your city government. At special meetings, the council takes formal action in specific items, and during workshops, we only discuss items with no formal action items taken. So with that, you'll hear that we have a special meeting shortly thereafter, followed by a workshop meeting. Agenda packets are available at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. For those following along online, for those present, there's a little table with a blue arrow that says agendas. This meeting is being televised live on PSC-TV, channel 191 and Spectrum Cable in Pasco and in Richland. It's streamed on the city's Facebook page, on its website, on its YouTube channel, and via Microsoft Teams webinar. This and previous council meeting agenda and video is available on the city's website. Lastly, the public may submit comments or ask questions by contacting the city manager, city clerk, or by using the Ask Pasco app. With that, Ms. Clerk.
Council members: Barajas.
Present.
Blaisdell. Here. Grimm,
Here.
Harpster,
Present.
Morales,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Milne,
Present.
and Mayor Serrano.
I am here.
Thank you.
With that, if you'll stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. With that, again, we're in the special meeting portion for anyone following along. We've got a single item, well, 3 motions. Under new business number 4, resolutions number 4588, 4589, and 4590, use of temporary staff services. And it looks like the Assistant City Manager, Angela Pashong, will be presenting this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So the purpose of the item tonight is we are seeking council approval for the 3 resolutions to authorize personal services agreements with the following temporary staffing agencies: Advanced Services, Inc., Infogenie, Inc., Persona Employment Solutions. These contracts will support seasonal and project-based and hard-to-fill roles across departments, primarily in the Parks and Animal Services divisions. There's many reasons why to use temporary service or temporary staffing agencies, including flexibility. They enable the city to quickly scale staffing for seasonal or emergent needs without the overhead of permanent hires. Cost savings. They reduce long-term employment costs as the city is not paying benefits or payroll taxes directly. Efficiency. Agencies handle the recruitment, screening, and onboarding, saving time and resources. It reduces our risk. Agencies bear the burden and liability for compliance for several requirements, including those of family leave laws and L&I. Speed. Agencies provide a pre-screened talent pool, helping us fill needs faster. Expertise. We bring in specialized skill sets without long-term training commitments. And then trial opportunity. Temporary roles can serve as a vetting period for potential permanent hires. We have seen particular use of this at our animal services for our kennel tech positions. Those positions are, you may think you're in for walking dogs only, but it's a lot harder than that. So that's been a very beneficial setup for us. So a little background on agency selection. To align with procurement best practices, in February 2025, the city issued an RFP for proposals, which we received 24, and we have selected 3 agencies based on their capacity, pricing, and qualifications. These contracts are for 2 years with an optional 1-year extension, so it gives us an opportunity to build a relationship with them, see how it's going, get the reporting mechanisms and requests that we have for them, and then if we see that it's a good fit, to continue with that opportunity. So fiscal impact, expenses are budgeted in departmental operating budgets. So annually we hire primarily for our park seasonals. So those are the individuals out mowing the grass, our boulevards, and doing that. We hire 16 of those positions every year, and that's about $300,000. And then we also have 1 role out at our cemetery because as irrigation's turned on, the grass grows, and we need to make sure that that is maintained. These annual needs align with our irrigation season. And in 2021, there was, we had a higher budget for seasonals for our parks crew, but we converted 7 of those into permanent positions with the expansion of our facilities and our needs. We did have the need for year-round. We just don't have need for year-round for this many individuals. So the request to council tonight is approval of the 3 resolutions, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Barajas.
Thank you. Quick question. You probably do have this, what is the overall savings on going this route versus hiring full-time jobs through the city?
So the biggest savings is going to be, and I'm not going to give you a flat dollar amount, I can definitely get that for you, but without the need of full-time 16 additional staff, it would be exponentially more expensive to bring them on. You'd be paying salary and benefits year-round. And so there is a markup when you do a temporary staffing agency, but it's less than if you had them full-time with benefits.
Do we have any further council discussion on this issue? Seeing none, do we have, it's a special meeting, do we have any public comment on this issue? Going once, going twice, third time. With that, we're going to close public comment. With that, Mr. Milne, can I get a motion?
Yes, Mayor. I move to approve resolution number 4588 authorizing the interim city manager to execute a personal services agreement with Advanced Services Incorporated for temporary staffing services.
Second.
Give that to Ms. Bras. Got a motion by Mr. Milne, a second by Ms. Bras. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none. Go ahead with the second, and bless you, Mr. Harpster.
I move to approve resolution number 4589 authorizing the interim city manager to execute a personal services agreement with Infungi Incorporated for temporary staffing services.
It's going to be a motion by Mr. Milne, a second by Ms. Bras. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. That too passes unanimously. Let's go for a third time.
All right, third time's a charm. I move to approve resolution number 4590 authorizing the interim city manager to execute a personal service agreement with Persona Employment Solutions for temporary staffing services.
We got a motion by Mr. Milne, a second by Ms. Barajas. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Sounds like we got a third unanimous. With that, we are going to adjourn our special meeting. I'll give the clerk a few seconds to make sure she has time to crane her neck to the clock. I think we're good. Okay, did I see the signal? We're okay to roll. With that, I am going to open our workshop meeting. It was listed for 7:05. We're 3 minutes late, so Chief Roski, I apologize. We've consumed that extra 3 minutes. I'll make it up by skipping items 1, 2, and 3 and moving on to item number 4. Do we have any verbal reports from council members? Mr. Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the Benton Franklin Transit Board of Directors meeting. We talked about the strategic plan and ridership and had a lively discussion about trip costs per person, management of the fleet, and it was really a fruitful discussion, fruitful meeting. The day before, myself, Councilmember Barajas, and Councilwoman Blaisdell all attended online the Tri-Cities Public Facilities District meeting, where the group voted me secretary of the board. The interesting thing about that is they had not called a meeting in nearly 2 years. It was, I believe, March or April of 2023 was the last time they had called a meeting. And there's various reasons and things going on, but that is something for me really to dig into in coming weeks and months and find out, well, what are we doing if, we don't need to meet that often? And I know the idea is obviously to serve as a regional public facilities board, but once again, I have a lot to learn, a lot to dig my teeth into, Mr. Mayor, and I also joined the Mayor Pro Tem today at the Pasco Chamber of Commerce lunch with a fair amount of staff, where we got to hear our own Fire Chief Crowley give an update about really the fire department. And it was the first time that anybody knows the fire department ever presented at the lunch. So it was really good to have one of our own heart and soul there talking just the core of Pasco. So anyways, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. Mr. Prowse.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended my first night with the Pasco Police Academy last Tuesday. Very informative. I was pretty impressed. I've done a couple of them, not for the Pasco, but for other municipalities, and just the breadth of knowledge and the presentations was really well done. So yeah, I'm really excited for the next couple weeks. Then I attended the JoJo's freeze-dried goodies ribbon cutting. I wasn't there for the ribbon cutting initially, but I ended up going about an hour after. A lot of people already had left, and I talked with Sarah, and she has some really good treats, and it's cool to see that she has stuff in the White House. I thought that was really interesting and really, should make us all proud that something like that is actually making that much of an impact. And then I went out and gave out some VIP patches to some of our Girl Scouts this weekend. I think Sunday was the last day for them to sell cookies. So that's all I have to report.
Thank you, Mr. Prowse. Mr. Milne.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I was there for also the JoJo's freeze-dried goodies, and phenomenal stuff. I can't say enough about it. I didn't think that a freeze-dried pickle would taste so good, but it it was really good. All the stuff she had was really good. They had a lot of candies and freeze-dried was it this pickle Skittles? I didn't think that was a bit good, but it was actually pretty good as well. So I would recommend people that if it's by the basically what the Berkshire Aircraft is on the back side and the railway yard is on the front side, but it's that whole row and it's just some unique places in there. So I'd recommend if you get a chance to go check it out. And then I also did have a COPA meeting also on Friday, and they talked a lot about how to move the organization along, but not asking for the city for money at the moment. And one thing they're talking about doing is fundraising. When October, some students from Kalima will be coming and visiting the Pasco. And again, just different ways that we in the COPA organization can make it better for Pasco and for these kids, the cooperation between Kalima and Pasco. So it was a good meeting. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the City of Pasco Council meeting. The City Council thanks you for being part of our city government. At meetings, the City Council takes formal action on items, holds public hearings, and conducts other business of the city. Agenda packets are available at the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. This meeting is also being televised live on PSC-TV, channel 191, on Spectrum Cable in Pasco and Richland, and is streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, YouTube channel, and Microsoft Teams webinar. This and previous council meetings video is available on the city's website. Lastly, the public may submit their comments and or questions by contacting the city manager, city clerk, or by using the Pasco Ask Pasco app. And with that, we are going to do a roll call.
Councilmember Barajas,
Raw is supposed to be online, I believe.
Councilmember Blaisdell,
Here.
Councilmember Grimm,
Here.
Councilmember Harpster,
Present.
Councilmember Perales. He is also supposed to be online.
Okay, and then Mayor Serrano is excused.
And Mayor Pro Tem Milne.
And I am here as well. So yeah, I know Mayor Serrano's with city staff, interim city manager, and they're at a conference to promote the city of Pasco. So very pleased that they're willing to do that for us. So did we get response from the other two councilmen? Are they online or? No? Okay, well if we get a chance, maybe they could chime in later, but we will mark that they are trying to chime in. So with that, I'm going to roll on to number 4, which is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by roll call vote as one motion. There will be no separate discussions of these items. If further discussion is desired by the council members, the item may be removed from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and considered separately. So do we have any council member that wants to pull it? Well, how the heck did I miss that? Well, thank you, Councilman Grimm. I guess I missed the Pledge of Allegiance. This is embarrassment. Most important thing we need to do as Americans. So let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, sorry for that. I was, I guess, too anxious to get a lot of business done for the city of Pasco, so my apologies. So with that, going back to, do we have any council members that would like to pull anything from the consent agenda? I'm not seeing anything, so on 4A, we have approval of meeting minutes for May 5th and May 12th. We have B, which is bills and communications, approving claims in the total amount of $4,909,379.11. We got C, resolution number 4600, surplus and sale of city personal property. And with that, Councilman Harpster, can I get a motion?
Yes, I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
Got a motion from Harpster and a second from Blaisdell. So with that, can I get a roll call?
Yes. Councilmember Barajas, if she's on. Blaisdell,
Yes.
Grimm,
Yes.
Harpster,
Yes.
Perales, if he's on. Milne.
Yes.
Then it passes 4-0.
So yeah, so it's good that we got that passed. So anyway, we'll move on to number 5, proclamations and acknowledgements. So right now we have part A is a Public Works Week proclamation, and we're gonna.
Give me 1 second, I'll get it to you.
Okay.
And we're also being made aware that audio is something that we're looking at, so we're working on it on our end, so we just need a minute.
Okay. Thank you. Before I read the proclamation, did Director Maria Sarah, did you want to have any words, or do you want me to go right to the proclamation?
Actually, if I may, I would like to invite the members of the Public Works Department to come closer.
Okay.
And then Mary Heather Ames, the Deputy Public Works Director, will have some words after the proclamation, if that's okay.
Okay. Well, let's
Thank
have where you guys all come up front, and I'll come down and read this, and we'll get the ball rolling here. So.
Stand here?
Yeah, let's stand in front of the council. You have whatever feels comfortable for you guys.
Thank you.
All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me just fine. So I'm pleased to pronounce that May 18th through the 24th of 2025 is Public Works Week. And whereas the Public Works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and service that are vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and service cannot be provided without the dedication effort of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees of all levels of government and the private sector who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. 100% true. You guys are doing a great job. Whereas it is the public interest for its citizens, civic leaders, and children of Pasco to gain knowledge and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public work programs in their respective communities. And whereas in the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association, Canadian Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pro Tem David Milne, in the city of Pasco, Washington, do hereby proclaim May 18th through the 24th Public Works Week. So it's a great honor, and you guys do a great job. So thank you. And so, do I give this to you, or? All right. So. Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to comment, or?
I came prepared with a speech, but it's quick. So, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. My name is Mary Heather Ames, and I am your Deputy Public Works Director. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here tonight for the proclamation of National Public Works Week in Pasco. I've been a fan and supporter of Public Works since I learned what it meant while working as an intern watering street trees and entering customer concerns in a database during the summer before my senior year in college. And I appreciated the idea that I could use my skills to make the place where I live better for all the people who live and work around me. So when I graduated, I started a career in Public Works. The theme for the National Public Works Week this year is people, purpose, and presence, which really resonates as public works professionals. Each of the people here find their purpose in meeting the needs of people. You and I know that public works makes communities safer, more vibrant, and a better place to live. So whether we're sweeping the streets, producing clean water, installing signs, treating residential or industrial wastewater, or making roads and sidewalks passable after a winter weather event, Public Works is always there when people need them. So our department is divided into 3 divisions, and we have representatives from each here tonight. So first we have the engineering division, led by Andre Avedisian. Next, we have Michael Henao, who leads the Environmental Compliance Division. You want to like raise your hand or something? Andre? Yay! Michael, thank you. And finally, Kent McHugh heads up our Operations Division with close support from Derek Wiedela, who could not be here tonight, Jason Etzler, Steve Brewer, and Tom Holmes. I would also like to note that our 2024 Employee of the Year is here, and that's Colby Lindgren. He was nominated and awarded for his work ethic and great attitude. So on behalf of this entire group, which includes the one unmentioned person, Ryan Mahaffey here, on behalf of this entire group and our Public Works Director, Sarah, I would like to thank you for the recognition and support both this week and year-round.
Thank you very much. If we could get maybe one more picture, we could get Director Maria Sarah and Mary Heather Ames. And I'd like to have the council down here as well. Sometimes they're up higher and they kind of feel disjointed. So if we could get everybody down here, that way we could show that we're one big community. So if we could maybe have you guys closer here where it says, yeah, well, you two could be in the middle. If we could have the council members. We got, all right, we got Grimm and Harpster, so got the whole gang here.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. I'll do 1, 2, 3.
Well, again, thank you, everybody. Thank you for everything you do. It's always impressive, your hard work. All right, we'll wait a quick second here. All right, now they're great. All right, David.
Both council members are online.
Okay, well, just to clarify, we do have both other council members, so there's actually 6 of us online here, or total. So with that, done with 5A, we are going to jump into 6, which is public comments. So the public may address council on any items unless it relates to a scheduled public hearing. This item is provided to allow the opportunity to bring items to the attention of the city council or to express an opinion on an issue. Its purpose is not to provide a venue for debate or for the purpose of questions with the expectation of immediate response. Some questions require consideration by council over time and after a deliberate process with input from a number of different sources. Some questions are best directed to staff members who have access to specific information. Citizen comments will normally be limited to 3 minutes each by the mayor and the city clerk. There's a timer up here. These with lengthy messages are invited to summarize their comments and or submit written information for consideration by the council outside of formal meetings. Lastly, when called upon, please state your name and the city of county residency into the microphone before providing your comments. And I have heard that we do have a Hispanic interpreter, so if anybody needs his services, I believe he's right over there. Was that correct? Yeah, okay. Just making sure I want everybody to be heard. So with that, anybody who would like to give public comment?
Mi nombre es Santos Echeverría. Yo vivo en la calle Bonneville, enfrente del Parque Memorial, que es la 1516 West Bonneville.
My name is Santos Echeverria. I live on 1516 West Bonneville Street, in front of Memorial Park.
Y mi comentario es que el parque ya no veo que es un parque calmadito, es un parque lleno de gente de la calle. Hay mucho fuego en una parrilla de 10 a 11 de la noche, mucha gente en la calle y muchos carros ahí vienen por 2 años con tanates adentro, se hacen pipí afuera, un desaseo. Vienen muchos carros en la noche y paran allí, se detienen, no sé qué está pasando, pero para mí ya no me siento que es seguridad el Parque Memorial. Y quiero saber si así va a seguir o así es, o hay reglas o no hay reglas.
My concern was with Memorial Park and how it's not a calm park anymore. It's lately full of street people and there's a lot of fire. They have a fire pit going from 10 to 11 p.m. There's cars out there that have been there for 2 or 3 years. There's a lot of people peeing outside. I wanted to know if this was something that was going to keep going because I don't feel secure anymore.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't aware of that, so I appreciate you bringing that to the attention of the city council, and we'll definitely direct staff and see what we could do. So thank you.
Otro problema con el
Can I
vecino.
add something?
Quiero que
Okay.
a ver si me ayudan. Hay mucha bulla, celebran fiestas cada 8 días, cada 15 días. Una música bien en alto, hasta me vibran los vidrios y ya ando buscando ayuda. He venido aquí y me han mandado cartas a ellos y no han hecho caso. Yo voy y les digo que no quiero esa bulla. Se empiezan desde las 12 de mediodía y a veces son las 10, las 11 hasta las 12, 1 y la gran música alta. Yo sé que ellos como que no son dueños de la casa, han llegado a rentar esa casa porque el dueño ya no vive allí. Pero yo quiero acudir a donde me pueden ayudar porque me han robado mi tranquilidad con esa gran bulla de música. Digo yo que no va a haber aún algo que pueda ayudarme.
I wanted to add that there's a neighbor that has constant loud music every week or every other week. They have really loud music where the windows shake. I've gone to speak with them. I've sent letters. They've sent them letters, but they start from like noon up until 10, 11, one time 1 in the morning, and it's really loud. I think they're renting there because the owner I've never seen, and they've stolen my peace. I don't know where to go. I've come here, and I want to know what I can do.
Okay, I appreciate you. Again, we only have 3 minutes, so what I would suggest is call code enforcement and then go from there. But usually code enforcement would be your best option, or Pasco Police Department for a noise violation if it's after I believe it's 9 o'clock. All right, thank you. All right, do we have anybody else? We got the gentleman in the back. If you could push the red buttons or the button there. Yep, now you're on.
Good to go. All right. My name is Brian Tuckisvig. I live at 4202 Road 105 in Pasco.
Okay.
I'm here tonight because I wanted to express my family's concern on the increased residential density and zoning for housing in the area and how it affects our current low-density neighborhood. My wife and I moved from a smaller neighborhood to our neighborhood in Wilson Meadows because of the larger lots and the space between homes. There's currently a neighborhood going in behind us that's really small with duplexes, townhomes, and very small residential lots that are very disproportionate to the lots that we have in our current neighborhood. My concern with that is because we wanted the space and the peace of mind that Wilson Meadows has delivered on all counts, really. Currently now the equipment is rattling our homes. We get the dust and the view and the beeps of the equipment going through and doing all the construction, and that's going to be taking place for probably the next 5 to maybe even 10 years, depending on how long it takes. It feels to us like the neighborhood we moved from is coming right back to us. The reason I came down here, and I know that that's not everything that's the city's responsibility. I know the state is driving some of this with their current growth management plan or their Urban Growth Act. But what I wanted to offer was, after looking through some of the residential zoning documents, I wanted to offer there's no bridge between low density residential and medium density residential. And my concern, even from the start of this planning, it was that there's no transition. There's no ease of from smaller lots to bigger lots and vice versa. It's just, cram-packed right behind us. So what I was going to offer was a addition of like an R1 to R3 zoning classification that could allow for from bigger lots that could blend in with the smaller lots that would help would maintain the characteristic of our neighborhood and also ease that transition from the bigger lots to the smaller lots. Unfortunately, we feel like we're the ones getting left holding the bag. The city's going to make money on property taxes. The developer's going to make money on selling the homes. And my increased property tax, I get to watch a small, tight, packed neighborhood go in behind me. I don't feel like that's a good deal for me and a good return on investment as a taxpayer. Road 68 is super busy. I see Road 100 being just as busy because the growth of the city is moving to the northwest corner. And I just feel like, from my point of view, things are closing in around us. So I just ask the city consider a zoning density that would allow for low density and medium density blended in a zoning category that would help ease the congestion and allow for a general transition of residential zoning to help maintain the character and the quality of life that we have. So looks like my time's up. So thank you for your attention and your.
I will say that there's members on the council that agree with you 100%. I don't want to get into a debate, but you're more than welcome to contact me.
Okay.
I'm pretty much on your side on this, but if you write it out, definitely and send it to the whole council so we're all transparent. But
okay.
Again, there is. It's not just. We want certain things. Again, you move to a certain area, you want the best you can for your community and your own family. So, just letting you know that as a council, the majority rules, but there is people up here that think the same way you do. But please feel free to. I'm willing to definitely more time, kind of explain things a little bit better.
Okay.
But please reach out to me. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I will do that.
Thank you.
3 minutes goes by quick.
It does.
Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other public comment? I think we got the two ladies in the back, and then we'll jump to Mary there.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. My name is Emily Maloney, and I'm the Taco Boss or
Could you
chair
move it down just a little
of
so I
the
can hear you a
Pasco
little
Taco
better?
Crawl. Yep.
Thank you.
That better?
It's better.
Okay. We have just completed our 9th annual Pasco Taco Crawl, so we thought we'd celebrate our winner and share the impact we've had on Pasco. This year, Trejo's Mexican Restaurant is our winner, making them our only 4-time champion. Rounding out our top 6 are second place El Habanero Mexican Grill, or Taqueria, excuse me. Third place, Tacos Las Tres Hermanos. Fourth place, Taqueria Las Marias. Fifth place, Mexican American Restaurant, or Kitchen, excuse me. And sixth place, Tri-Cities Afghan Food. Since the event started in 2016, we have paid more than $130,000 to local businesses for the over 80,000 tacos they've made for taco crawlers. That is enough for about 1 taco for every man, woman, and child currently living in Pasco. We think it's important to pay our vendors for each taco, and we increase our payment amount to keep up with inflation. Our businesses have reported increases in year-over-year revenue of 10 to 15% after participating in the taco crawl. So far, 8,171 taco enthusiasts have bought into the Pasco Taco Crawl. Most taco crawlers are from across the river in Kennewick and Richland, and we have folks make trips from the Seattle area and beyond to participate. One taco crawler shared that he was out of the Seattle area and that he shut down his chiropractor practice for a week each year to come in and taco crawl. The Pasco Taco Crawl is grassroots tourism at its finest. On top of all of that, we have raised almost $90,000 for Boys and Girls Clubs. We are a volunteer committee, and our major expense is paying the small businesses and printing the Taco Crawl booklets. Everything else goes to support the Boys and Girls Clubs. We have some big things in mind for our 10th anniversary this next year, so we hope that you'll keep an eye out. Thank you for your time, and I'd like to introduce Megan Sharks from the Boys and Girls Clubs to tell you more.
Thank you so much, Council, for your time. The Boys and Girls Club serve over 12 sites across Pasco, and we are committed to empowering local youth, and with the great support from the Taco Crawl and sponsors alike, they help us serve more Pasco kids and teens in meaningful ways and giving them the tools that they need to be successful in life and in this thriving community. The funds raised from the Taco Crawl directly help support over the 1,600 youth served in Pasco, and we are so grateful for the continued support from this award-winning fundraising community event. We look forward to celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Taco Crawl next year and provide even more meaningful programming to the youth of Pasco. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, and Taco Crawl is an amazing event, so thank you for all you do, and please tell your husband we said hi as well.
I will.
Thank you. All right, I think now it looks like Mary wants to tell us some important words here. Not yet. Now it is.
It's on. Mary Mahoney, Pasco resident, to Pasco via RCW 42.56. Add the following to my comments made to the Pasco City Council on 5/5/25. Provide the fines paid by Pasco and spot zoning developers Hayden Homes for killing our 8 floodplain American bald eagles and their eaglets. I have over 500 photos. And provide a permit number 404 that allows Pasco to develop our floodplain and destroy our wildlife habitat and more. Regarding the Pasco Aquatic Center, provide ex-Pasco Mayor Matt Watkins and/or Watkins Endeavor LLC provide his total travel costs for the search of the Wow Factor wave machine that costs anywhere from $22 million to $280 million. Include passport entries and trips on cruise ships. Reminder is that Yakima's Aquatic Center opens in June for a total cost of $10.8 million. Provide the YouTube video of the Pasco City Council meeting on 4/1/19 with comments made by Pasco City Attorney Lee Kerr. Include a copy of the termination agreement regarding the contract between WSU and Animal Control. Mr. Kerr stated he would provide a copy of the termination agreement, and Mr. Kerr has not provided that copy. Provide all communications between Pasco City Attorney Lee Kerr and the Washington State Bar regarding Mr. Kerr's self-reporting of his authorization of no due process at Animal Control, now called Tri-City Animal Services. See the YouTube video 4/1/19. For the year 2024, provide the number of dogs and cats that the Tri-City Animal Services has sent to WSU for research and the money that WSU has paid for those dogs and cats. Contact the Washington State Attorney General and Pasco City Attorney Lee Kerr and provide the results of the 48 counts of animal cruelty, the theft of $375,000, and the missing rainy day fund. See Chambers, Howard, Hernandez, and Zeiler. Provide all past and present LID and/or ULID designs for my Pasco property. Include LID and/or ULID start dates and costs. Include also all Pasco officials' communications regarding harassment and retaliation to me and to my property. I reserve the right to amend this request upon further discovery. Reference number P001447-051625. My comments are for the record and to put Pasco on notice.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience that would like to comment on anything? All right, I'm not seeing anybody jump up. So with that, we're going to move on to number 7, which is reports and committees from our council. We got Councilman Grimm.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Attended this last week, the groundbreaking for the CBC new housing unit for student housing. Dr. Woods hosted, I don't know, it seemed like there were 50 or so people there for this new housing unit right on the corner of Argent and 20th there. Going to house 156 students. Apparently there's a waiting list already, you know, and it's affordable housing for kids going to school, and looks like they're just doing great things over there. And then also this last Friday, it was our Ben Franklin Council of Governments meeting where I was going to forward on the packet to the rest of the council like I did last week at my other meeting, or some pertinent screenshots, but it was over 500-page packet. Few of the kind of highlights were Daisy did a presentation on safe routes to school, just looking at every school in the entire Tri-Cities area and looking at the safest way and mechanism of getting kids to and from school, and all the way down to looking at where maybe trees need to be added in high concrete areas to make it more, I guess, appealing to kids to walk to and from school. It was very, very comprehensive. And speaking of comprehensive, we also talked about the comprehensive action plan, which really just has a lot to do with traffic in the area and accidents in the area. And just a couple things worth noting is this says statewide crash numbers mirror the data of Benton Franklin counties. The overall number of crashes is decreasing, but deadly crashes are rising. Just a couple footnotes real quick. Statewide crashes were down 10% in the last 6 years, but up 5.5% in Benton Franklin counties. Fatalities were up 48.2% statewide. 86.4% in Benton Franklin County. Serious injuries were the only one where we were slightly down from the state average. We were 50% even. They were 52.5. But overall, what they call FSI, fatalities and serious injury crashes, 51.7% up statewide in 6 years. Benton Franklin County up 58.3%. So then we went on, without going too deep into this, about what steps are taken to mitigate some of those through whether it be traffic calming measures or just training drivers better, and just how can we get better on this. And I thought that would just be a great point to also make a plug for our dedicated traffic unit for the Pasco Police Force that I think would help deter some of that I will keep fighting for. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, thank you, Councilman Grimm. A lot of statistics there. I appreciate the honest report, and then also thank you for attending the groundbreaking. It's always good when a council is active in our community. So, Councilwoman Blaisdell.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to go to Persona Employment Solutions for their ribbon cutting. They have actually Pasco is their third location, and they chose Pasco out of the whole Tri-Cities. So, interesting fact, they also support farm labor for Pasco, so it's definitely much needed here. So welcome to Pasco.
Well, thank you for that. Also, again, thank you for taking time out of your day to attend the groundbreaking. Means a lot. So do we have anything from, we'll start off with Councilman Perales first.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Perfect. I attended the grand opening of the Stacks Mobile Bistro right there off of Cord Street. So they have a brick and mortar there. They have another one over in Kennewick, but this one's very special. It's unique to them, and I can tell they were very proud for opening up their first really unique and just a lot of culture in there, and the art in there was amazing. It was all done by hand by a local artist, and so yeah, I had a good time there. Went through this weekend with my family, so I definitely recommend the Chilaquiles. If anyone's looking for a new place to go try them out, and that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Councilman Perales. Appreciate that. And do we have anything from Councilwoman Brajas?
Nothing to report on my end. I'm still out of state with family.
Okay, well, hopefully you'll be able to come back next week. So thank you. With that done, we're going to move on to 7B, which is 2025 Washington State Legislative Session Update. And
Absolutely. I will introduce Breanna Murray, partner of Gordon Thomas Honeywell Government Affairs, our lobbyist, and she will provide you a recap.
well, thank you, Brianna, for making it all the way over here. We always appreciate you making the drive and not doing this by Zoom. That does make us feel special. So, again, thank you for being here to present us what you're able to tell us. So
what
thank you.
I can share, absolutely. Well, good evening, and yes, anytime I'm able to make the drive, I do, and then on those times that I'm not, I always appreciate your all's flexibility to allow me to appear before you virtually. This evening, I'm going to provide you with an overview of the 2025 legislative session, review for you the outcome of your 2025 legislative priorities, and then also identify next steps. In your packet, you have a fairly comprehensive draft report from me. That report will be finalized, and you'll get a final version of it after the governor takes final action on all budgets and bills, which is supposed to occur tomorrow, late in the day. It will take me some time to wrap up all the actions, so don't expect it on Wednesday, but within the week we'll get you a fully final version of those written materials. The legislative session included a lot of action, so my goal this evening is to hit you with the highlights. start with an overview of just the high-level context for the 2025 legislative session. You'll recall from some of our previous discussions that the legislature operates on a 2-year cycle, and this legislative session was the first year of that 2-year cycle and was a long legislative session scheduled to last 105 days. During long legislative session, the legislature focuses on developing their biennial budgets, operating capital and transportation. Unlike the city's budget, they separate out capital and transportation. Transportation's in a separate budget and all other construction is in capital. In addition to doing their budgeting work, they also consider all legislation. There were over 2,500 bills introduced this session, 431 of those passed into law, and so far the governor has not vetoed any of them. Any legislation that was introduced that did not pass into law automatically carries over and will be considered in 2026. The political context of the session is important to understanding why what occurred. And following the November 2024 elections, we saw 24 new legislators join the Washington State Legislature. That was significant turnover, about 30% for the Washington State Legislature, and is on par with what we've seen the last 3 biennia, which means in the last 5 years we've seen over 50% of the legislature turnover to be relatively new elected officials. Also, this year was the beginning of Bob Ferguson's first term in office. Democrats not only had control of the governor's office, but they had strong majorities in both the House and the Senate. The House was 58 Democrats and 40 Republicans, and the Senate was 29 Democrats, 20 Republicans. As the majority party, Democrats controlled not just what bills and budgets advanced, but also floor schedules, floor action, and generally set the priorities for the legislative session. So that's the broad context. The other really key component of the shaping of the legislative session was driven by budgets. Leading into the legislative session, we heard legislators indicate, a lot of the budget writers indicate that the state was facing a multi-billion-dollar budget shortfall. As the legislative session carried on, the budget shortfall began to be articulated by a variety of different numbers in the $10 to $16 billion range. The shortfall is articulated as being driven by slowing revenue growth and rising caseloads. One of the key components of the rising caseloads was the collective bargaining agreements that each of the state's unions negotiate each year that are then funded, as well as other statutory obligations that the legislature had passed but not yet fully funded. So some of the rise in cost is actually commitments that the state had made to fund certain things that had never received funding before. There were how to address this budget shortfall and the debate over whether or not there was a budget shortfall really was all-consuming throughout the legislative session. There were concerns during the final days of the legislative session that there would not be an agreement on a final budget and it would trigger a special session. However, they were able to reach an agreement and adjourn on time. The governor played a key role in the budget development. The governor signs the budget into law. We're waiting for that action tomorrow to see if it will indeed occur. But he issued several press statements asking the legislature to be more conservative in their budgeting or to select various revenue sources, some indicating he liked some more than others. At the end of the day, the legislature approved a $77.8 billion budget for 25-27 with $2.3 billion in reserves, which is slightly less than what the state treasurer's office recommends. As part of that, the legislature raised $4.3 billion in new taxes for this fiscal biennium. If you make that into a 4-year outlook, it's over $9 billion, which is the number that most of the media grabbed onto, was $9 billion in new taxes. This is one of the largest tax packages we have seen in state history, and the governor has yet to sign it into law. The capital budget was much more stable and not facing the same level of shortfalls. The capital budget supports infrastructure like schools, housing, libraries, behavioral health facilities, and is also the budget that we tend to ask for city projects funding for. Within the capital budget, while there was not a shortfall, it was more constrained than in previous biennia. In 2023, $231.8 million was allocated to various community projects, and this year we saw $30 million less, $201.3 million. The average local and community project award going out to various communities was $604,000. I want you to remember that number when we get to the next slide and we talk about how well you all did, because it was better than average. The third budget was the transportation budget. The transportation budget faced an over $1 billion shortfall in the 25-27 biennium and a multi-billion-dollar shortfall over their 6-year outlook. It was largely driven by transportation project costs increasing with inflation, as well as increasing costs to comply with the Supreme Court mandate that the state replace all fish culverts. The legislature ended up balancing that budget with $3.2 billion in new revenue sources, including a 6-cent gas tax increase. In addition to raising revenue to have that budget balance over the next 6 years, they also delayed several projects that they had already committed funding to. At the end of the day, they did not fund any new projects and approved $15.5 billion for the current biennium. So with that political and budgetary context in mind, I want to transition into talking about your specific legislative priorities and funding requests. You all had 2 capital funding requests. The first capital funding request was for MLK Community Center Phase 3. This was a request for $900,000 to renovate the southwest building of the MLK Community Center. The final capital budget, which is scheduled to be signed into law tomorrow, appropriated $927,000 to that project. Before you get too excited about that extra $27,000, it's allocated so that you can pay the Department of Commerce admin fee. The second capital funding request you all had outlined was a request for $500,000 for Road 80 neighborhood improvements. That exact amount was included in the final capital budget, and I believe because it's below the $500,000 or below, that admin fee doesn't apply. You all outlined 3 different transportation funding requests, $5 million for the Road 76 project, $3 million for the US 12A Street traffic study, and $3.3 million for Lewis Street underpass demolition. We did some great lobbying and education on these 3 projects, not just me on the ground on a day-to-day basis, but several members of council made the trip over to Olympia and participated in advocacy for those 3 projects. At the end of the day, the transportation budget didn't fund any new projects, and so the city didn't receive funding for any of those. Neither did any other community in the state, so don't feel too bad. The one note I will make is, as a reflection of the advocacy work that was done, the Senate put forward a transportation proposal that would have funded new projects. It relied on a significantly higher gas tax increase, as well as transitioning the culvert obligation, the obligation to replace all the state-owned culverts, to the capital budget, and defunding several capital budget programs, including the Public Works Assistance account. And it relied on a pretty hefty transfer from the operating budget to the transportation budget, which would have had to be backed by a larger tax increase to fund the operating budget. So by doing all of those things in the Senate's proposal, they were able to put forward a list of new projects that would receive funding, and the Lewis Street underpass demolition was included on their list of projects that would receive funding. At the end of the day, the legislature chose to be more modest with their tax increases than what the Senate had proposed. I wouldn't describe the tax increases as modest, but more modest than what was initially proposed. And so that was not those new transportation projects were allocated funding, but I just want to highlight that as a reflection of making progress. I know it can be frustrating that you all spend your time and energy to make trips over to Olympia. You see me spending time and energy and city staff spending time and energy, and then to not get allocated funding can feel very frustrating. And I want you to know I certainly feel that as the person on the ground pounding the marble to make it happen. But looking at these little measures of like we are being heard and we are seeing progress help with that. In addition to your funding requests, you all have a series of policy statements that direct our advocacy on policy issues, and I want to express great gratitude also to city staff who assist me in reviewing the various different bills that are brought forward and ascertaining the impact specifically to the Pasco community. It could go on a variety of different policy areas, but this evening, with the short amount of time we have together, I wanted to highlight a few items for your consideration. The first one is around local community decision making. Over the last several years, we have seen the legislature advance this trend of preempting local control, particularly in the space of land use, in the notion or in the vein of trying to increase housing availability. We saw that trend continue this year. There were 3 major pieces of preemption that I wanted to highlight for you all this evening, and then the report captures probably about 15 additional bills. The first one is that the legislature is directing your ability to require parking for new construction. So for residential housing, you may not require more than 1 parking space per single family home or 0.5 parking space for a multifamily unit. And there's also a limit on the amount of parking you can require for commercial space per square footage. There are some different off-ramps that have been built into that legislation that we were able to get through advocacy and articulating to legislators some potential negative impacts of greatly reduced parking requirements, but largely the city will be in a position of having to follow the state law within the next, I think it's 3 years or 18 months, I can't remember, but within the near term. The second major piece of preemption occurred around lot splitting. The city will be required to offer a administrative ability to take 1 lot and divide it into 2. I am pleased to share with you that there were a lot of, I'll say, belts and suspenders built into that bill to make sure that the resulting 2 lots are buildable and that the resulting 2 lots cannot be further split into a subsequent 2 lots, which are both the buildability of the resulting lot and the sort of never-ending lot splitting were 2 concerns that were very strongly raised in previous legislative sessions. And then the third item was called the Housing Accountability Act. And what it does is it allows Commerce to go in and audit 10 jurisdictions per year to see whether or not you are adequately complying with the preemption or mandates that have been passed in the last handful of years by the legislature. The next item is on housing and homelessness. Democrats articulated their priorities on housing and homeless around stability, supply, and subsidy. On the supply side, they really focused on the land use bills I just outlined for you. On the subsidy side, they passed a rent stabilization bill that caps annual rent increases at 7% plus inflation or 10%, whichever is less, and an even further reduced rent cap for mobile home parks. And then on the subsidy side, the legislature invested $600 million into the Housing Trust Fund and an additional $90 million into a program that helps connect infrastructure to housing to hopefully help get more units constructed. The third item is fiscal sustainability. On this one, I would like to frame it as the best defense is some offense. So through the course of my 18 years lobbying in Olympia, every time the legislature has faced a significant budget shortfall, they have balanced their budget by reducing state shared revenues. That did not happen this year. And it did not happen in large part because there was significant taxes raised, revenue raised through tax increases. But it also didn't happen because I think local governments came forward asking for greater fiscal sustainability, and they heard that outcry, and therefore those state shared revenues were not on the chopping block in the same way that they've been in previous years. So the good news is no cuts. The other piece of good news is a small amount of flexibility with your existing real estate excise tax revenues that allows you to spend some of that revenue on operating and maintenance rather than on new capital expenditures. So a little bit more flexibility with the dollars that you have. And then I'll just note that you all have had debate over the years on the 1% property tax cap. And so that was not an item that we weighed in on in any way, but the legislature had a robust discussion but chose not to advance forward any changes on that cap after the governor indicated he would be inclined to veto anything. Finally, on community safety, the legislature's biggest action was that they allocated $100 million to a grant program to hire law enforcement officers. To be eligible for that grant program, you do have to have, either you or the county have to have an ongoing revenue source to support those positions. I'm not actually sure whether you all have one of those ongoing revenue sources in place, but if you don't, they provided you with councilmanic authority to increase the sales tax locally in order to provide that ongoing funding and take advantage of the grant funds. So that's a snapshot. That comprehensive written report that I mentioned goes into a lot more detail, and I could stand up here probably talking for an hour, and I won't. But that gives you some flavor of where some of the policy issues we worked on your behalf landed. I want to direct you to next steps. We had great success within the capital budget, getting 2 appropriations and between the 2 of them, greater than average dollar coming into the community compared to many others. And you all truly have an excellent delegation in the 14th, the 8th, and the 16th district legislators. And as you see them out in community or otherwise, please thank them. They have heard from me endless amounts of gratitude and appreciation, but it is very meaningful coming from you all, elected to elected. And I will be brainstorming with city staff different ways of more formally acknowledging and expressing our appreciation to our legislators. You all also have some work to do to implement not just some of the policies that they've passed, but also make sure we deliver on their funding. Anytime the legislature allocates us funding, we want to make sure that we can show them that groundbreaking or that ribbon cutting or the project moving forward as soon as possible. So we will get working on that. And it's never too early to start thinking about the next legislative session, because while we're not quite done with the governor's final action for 2025, January 12th, 2026 will be here before we know it. The next year of the legislative biennium will be a short legislative session. It'll last 60 days, and the legislature will be going in and making amendments to the budgets that they just adopted. I will note that it is possible, if not likely, that we will see a special session between now and January 12th that would be driven by actions at the federal level that would result in their budget no longer balancing. One of the things that was new this year in the budget is that the legislative budget writers are going to be receiving monthly fiscal reports from the Office of Financial Management on the status of revenue collections and expenditures so that they can call a special session quickly if the budget really starts to get out of balance in an effort to try and avoid getting to a $15 billion shortfall number like we saw this last year. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you, Brianna Murray, for your presentation on that. Definitely frustrating being a Washington State resident and seeing taxes continually go up. Wasn't it just a couple years ago the state of Washington had a surplus?
Yes, however, much of it was one-time dollars through ARPA.
Okay. How much was that surplus, just out of curiosity?
I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry, I'm happy to follow up.
Okay. Well, again, I really do appreciate your hard work getting the City of Pasco some big wins. I know Councilman Grimm is very unhappy that he doesn't get his road 76 overpass, the 76 Grimm overpass, as he called it. But just joking. But anyway, I did want to let my other colleagues say a few words, but I know as a resident, it is very frustrating to constantly see tax, and we tax our way out of issues. I know this isn't your doing, and again, I know our legislative groups very well, and I know they are trying. It's hard when you're in the minority and you have the majority choosing what and how whatever you think gets passed and what gets even read. So I do understand it. I'm just saying, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, that it's very difficult to be taxed every year. Then you wonder if you can continually stay in this state of Washington when it gets to retirement age. It just seems to be so difficult. But I do love the state, do love the trees, do love living here. I'm proud to be a Washingtonian. Just always frustrating that our state seems to want to tax their way out of stuff versus actually find better ways. And then again, I would want to make a comment that what also is frustrating is we don't get money for some of these things that would alleviate traffic, like the Road 76 overpass, and yet the council then is blamed for not thinking ahead, and yet in reality we're asking for the state's help. They say no, and then you have heavy traffic, and then people say, well, what did the council, why did they resolve these issues when they had a chance? And it's because of stuff like this. So again, I realize you're doing your best. Again, I do want to say I appreciate it, just that as a councilman and as a citizen, it's very difficult to constantly hear no, and then you get blamed for it as personally as far as you're not seeing into the future. So
Yeah, one comment I want to make in response to that is that I really view our work together as identifying a legislative agenda where we can accomplish things for the Pasco community in the political environment we're in. You all on this dais can't control who has the majority in Olympia. I, single-handedly, as your advocate, cannot influence whether or not they're going to increase taxes or not. But what we can do is take advantage of different opportunities as they come about in the various political environments to make sure that there are investments being made in the Pasco community and do the best we can within the environment that does exist. And I do think that the legislative agenda we put together accomplished that. While we didn't get anything on the transportation front, we did on the capital front. I think we were asking for the right dollar amounts for the fiscal situation that the state was facing and the majorities that existed. So I hear your frustration, and also would encourage you to think about the approach to the city's legislative program as one of looking at how to make progress for the community in any environment.
well, thank you for that. Again, sounds like we're on the same boat there. But thank you. Let's turn over to Councilman Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Ms. Murray, for everything this season. Really, my sentiments are nearly identical to the Mayor Pro Tem's, and if I didn't have so much opportunity for personal interaction with you over the last legislative session, I probably wouldn't have turned on my light. But no, thank you for giving me every opportunity to advocate on behalf of the city and the mayor and the Mayor Pro Tem also when we were over there. All the meetings you set up, and then me springing on a last-minute visit that you still accommodated and was able to connect me to senators and legislators and everything. Really appreciate it. Yeah, of course I'm disappointed, as I would think most Washingtonians are. I mean, the highest tax package ever, so hard on the working class, the middle class, lower income workers. But, I think about those transportation projects not getting passed, but the way you word it, it's hard to imagine we could afford any more taxes at that point, and if that's all where it's coming from. And I am grateful that the governor threatened to veto the property tax increase and threw the majority party a curve, and I know that was kind of one of the scenarios playing out for most of the legislative session with the new governor, exactly how he was going to interact with them, and the fact that he stood his ground on a few key issues that I really appreciate. I think it made it a much more contested legislative agenda than perhaps we had, and I saw by the final number of bills that got passed. To me, that's a good thing when they pass less legislation out of Olympia. But, I just want to say in the time I was over there, it looked like you were very well received, you were very well respected and working hard. And even like I sent that picture, my daughter getting a selfie with the governor, and there's you and your assistant in the background working hard as I looked into the finer details. Just says so much about your work ethic over there and what you're doing on behalf of Pasco. So thank you so much.
Well, it's truly my pleasure. I love what I do, and I invite any of you to make the trip over to Olympia at any point during session. And happy to host you and get you connected and see part of our world.
Thank you for that. Do we have any other councilmen or on the dais here? No. Do we have any from Mr. Perales or Bras?
I was just going to say thank you to Brianna and her staff and colleagues for helping us out there in Olympia this past session. And she said it all in the presentation. I think a lot of things from this last session. Many people in the community, many people in office, like Mayor Pro Tem Milne said, are not very happy. And I think it's just, I think at the end of the day, maybe this time, with what we've seen come out of Olympia, people will start to wake up, engage with their local council members, engage with the representatives, to start going in a different direction in regards to policies. And I'll commend the governor for fighting back on a couple of these bills and what have you. But I think we're going to have come to Jesus moment in the next couple of years with these rising taxes and stuff. I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but definitely it struck a chord when listening to the presentation tonight. So again, thank you, Brianna. Thank you to Gordon Thomas-Honeywell for all the hard work you guys have been doing. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councilman Perales. Councilwoman Bras, do you have anything to say? Maybe we lost her. Anyway, since it's quiet, I guess we'll move on. Again, I do appreciate you taking time out of your day and driving all the way over here. And again, thank you for your hard work. I've seen you in action when we were there a few months back, and I know you are really trying hard. I try not to be negative, but it's very hard to read the news constantly and say like, oh crap, here comes something else. And especially when you go to other states and then you see gas so cheap, and then you come back to the state of Washington and it just seems like we're being gouged. So, but again, thank you for everything you do. I do want that to be the main point. And again, thanks for all your hard work trying to make Pasco a great place. Thank you. Well, with that, we are going to move on to number 8, which is hearings and council actions on ordinance and resolutions related thereto. We have 8A, which is a public hearing for the 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program. And we are going to have a report from Maria Serra.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. We are talking about our 2026-2031 Transportation Improvement Program, and some of the slides will be a reminder of what we have been discussing since earlier this year, but I think is appropriate since this is a public hearing setting to provide all the information to the public. This program is evaluated yearly. It's a 6-year program that is proposed and updated every year in consideration of RCW 3577-010. The deadline to get this program approved is July 1st of each year, in this case 2025, and it must include bicycle and pedestrian facilities, as well as be consistent with our comprehensive plans. Next slide, please. As we have talked in the past, this Transportation Improvement Program includes the names and scopes of the projects, the estimated cost, a proposed schedule. Those costs are then divided between the cost of each phase of the project, so design, right-of-way, and construction. For those that have all those phases, it also includes plans and studies, as well as programs, which are annual programs that are recurrent activities done to improve our transportation system. And it must list the anticipated funding sources. Many of those are not secured at the time the program is passed. Others have been secured and are indicated as such. This TIP is showing the projects that are anticipated to be delivered by the city. It does not include projects that are to be performed by private parties. And of course, we pay special attention to our federal and state funding, because this list is the base for the State Transportation Improvement Program, which is the way that we access those awarded funds through federal and state agencies. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have been working on this list for a couple of months now, and we had some outreach. So the current list that is provided to you in the current packet and in this presentation includes 44 projects, 3 programs, and 5 studies. So there are some inclusions from the prior version. All the work that has been done so far is starting from the prior TIP, so the previously adopted TIP, which is the 2025 to 2030 TIP, updating anything that has changed in those, from updates to schedule or changes in funding, any change to priorities that has been identified, maybe because a project is no longer needed or has become more important, so it has moved up or received funding that was not anticipated to be available this fast. So all those updates have occurred in the list. We completed our outreach efforts. There were in-person and online outreach opportunities, and we have incorporated the feedback both received here in the council chambers as well as in our public events, plus any comments that we receive online. Some of the comments were really related to O&M activities, so operations and maintenance, and so those are included in our list for addressing those as we do our daily work. Others resulted in addition to new items in this list. So what is still left to do is having this public hearing and confirming the prioritization so that later on this program can be adopted, and that is scheduled to occur in a couple of weeks. Next slide, please. Okay, so what you're seeing on the screen right now is the map that shows all the proposed improvements. You're seeing in anything that is lines, is a corridor improvement or an extension or a connection. Anything that looks like a traffic signal is an intersection improvement, not necessarily a signal, could be a roundabout, but it's a symbol that we use, which is easy to understand. And you are seeing all projects that have a location, and that includes also studies that have a location. There are some programs that are citywide, and those are not really represented in the map because of how difficult it is to identify that it's across the whole city. Next slide, please. Okay, so once more, this table is much easier to review in your packet, but it's showing the overall list of what we have, and I will call attention to the different colors. We have in the first segment in blue the projects. So those are projects that have design, sometimes right-of-way acquisition, and then construction. Call attention to those that are bolded. Those are new to this list, and I will tell you which ones those are. And then we have 2 projects that are shown in orangey color at the bottom of the first group of projects, and those are brand new, different, or new from the last list you saw as a draft in our previous meeting. So that's why we are trying to call attention to those, and I will go ahead and read what those are. Then in green we have programs, and at the bottom of our list are the studies, and there is also 1 bolded project there. Okay, so let me read to you what are the new projects that have been added. Okay, starting with project number 16. This is the Road 68 Pavement Preservation Project that is new to this TIP, did not exist in the previous TIP that was adopted by you all. Number 30 is the 4th Avenue Pavement Preservation, which extends from I-182 to the county line. And then in orange, in the first group of projects, is the brand new project. You have not seen this one before in any draft list. That is project number 43, is the Road 44 FCID Canal Crossing. That is pedestrian facilities to cross the canal. It's a gap that has been identified and mentioned in prior meetings. And then item 44 is Core Street Safety Improvements Phase 2. And this was as a result of comments that we received during our meetings. It's pedestrian and bicycle facilities along that corridor extending between Road 68 and Road 96, and this is because there are safety improvements proposed in our current TIP that extend on either side of this segment, but this segment was not identified yet, and it's planned to be incorporated in this program should you desire to do so, likely in the later years of the plan. So it's a brand new project coming to add with the new time frame that we have in this program versus the prior one. And finally, the other new project to this, it is a study to this program is number 51, Route 68 and Taylor Flats intersection study. That is an intersection that didn't used to be city jurisdiction. It is now partially city jurisdiction, and with increased volumes and the configuration of the intersection that has 5 legs, it is likely we will have to find solutions for increasing safety at that location. Okay, so next slide is the same list of projects, but in this case you are seeing the schedule in which they've been planned to be delivered. And along with that, you are seeing also the status of their funding. That's the very last column. And what you're seeing is that the vast majority of priorities 1 have funding secured, and that carries us pretty much to number 10. So there's at least 10 projects that are either fully funded or substantially funded. And then we have other projects that have partial funding and so on. So that is the current proposed prioritization of the projects and schedule. Next slide, please. And then this is our schedule that we had discussed earlier. You are seeing all the things, all the activities that have already occurred. We had several meetings in which we discussed this preliminary list, and we received feedback. We did outreach and received more feedback, incorporated the feedback, discussed the feedback with you. And so today we are right here in the public hearing date. And the next steps would be potential edits to DIP that could occur based on the feedback we received today and your direction. And the adoption prior to July 1st of 2025 is currently scheduled for June 16. And there is something weird happening with our slides, but I will confirm. Yes, June 16th is the tentative date for adoption of this plan. Should there be more changes by that date, we can still plan for a special meeting on the following Monday. So we have a lot of time and opportunity for making this program be exactly what you want to see. Next slide, please. Oh, perfect. So with that, that is an overview of our program. And I would be happy to answer any questions. And if there are no questions, we can move on to the public hearing. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you for that presentation. I know before I ask my colleagues if they have any questions for you before we do the public hearing, I had a question. Maybe you could kind of like run us through, like, say for instance on Road 100 in Court Street, where it's my area. We talked about the roundabout, and I know it's on here, but so say like in 2027, you don't get the 500,000. So obviously it wouldn't be completed. And again, it's hard to read some of these numbers because my eyes, I guess, aren't as good as I think they are. You're talking 2030 or 2031. For that to complete it. So what if there's another budget crisis? I mean, how does this work basically just for the people at home? We see it on the list. We see that's when it would happen or what should happen. But what if it doesn't? When? How long? I mean, does it just go with the first 10 get knocked off and then they move up in the list? Or how does that work where we have the most constituents complain that they want their stuff? Because I will say I've been trying really hard to go down Road 100. We got a constituent in the audience, and so I'm like, since instead of taking the pathway along the park to Chihuahua, I've been actually walking down Court Street more with my dog, and literally, I don't know if somebody was trying to scare me or what, but they were within a foot, and I was in the bike lane, and at night, and the wham went by me. I thought for sure they were trying to knock me out, and I'm totally shocked. But again, usually it's at nighttime where people really like fly down, and maybe they weren't paying attention, I don't know. But obviously I do think a roundabout would, because you would nail it going the speeds they're going. So getting off my tangent, what do you think would be more realistic in people in this area And then like on funding, can you kind of give us a quick overview of how this should work and how realistically it does work?
Yes, so the program itself proposes the schedule based on likelihood of receiving funds or having collected the funds. There are several mechanisms for collecting funds for projects. Of course, our arterial fund and streets funds are funded through gas tax and other utility tax revenue that is provided for street maintenance and improvements. Now, additional to that, there is the transportation impact fee, which could be one mechanism to partially fund projects, and that is a project that is included in the transportation impact fee list of projects. So that is another avenue. And then, of course, there's always the opportunity to pursue grants from federal and state agencies, and the city has a history of pursuing and receiving, thankfully, some of those grants. We anticipate that the future of grants for the foreseeable future will be a little bit drier than what it has been up until now. And Pasco has been very, very successful, so that may actually impact our likelihood of receiving additional funds, since when funds and resources are short, there is the feeling that funding agencies need to ensure that everybody's receiving a little bit, right? And so Pasco, having had so much success, may actually not be our best way to advocate for more funds. Now, the way our plan or program is proposed is based on reasonable expectation of receiving funds. So we believe that this is not too aggressive of a plan, and therefore we think that it is possible to receive funds. If funds were not available, typically what happens is year after year, as we look at TIP, we identify how much end balance is available and whether we've received the funds or not, and then we adjust priorities. As we have talked in the past, priority to safety issues is typically given over other amenities within the roadway. And so there is dollars that are good for maintenance, especially in the grant world and our own funds, and then dollars that are good for constructing new. And therefore, there is the possibility that the funds will not be available to do the full improvements that are planned, and then projects get reprioritized, whether that means that this project moves further out in the future or other project gets moved down from the list and this one takes its place. And that is a call that is made during this TIP planning, and then if it's dependent on receiving funds that are external, is on the actual receiving those funds and securing them. So it's a combination of factors there. Hopefully that addresses the
Yeah,
question.
that does. Again, just to clarify one quick thing. So, say like for instance this roundabout. I always love the idea. Always wanted to see it. And again, it's hard sometimes to rally people to a cause and to attend these meetings. But say you had 20, 30 people come to a meeting, everybody said the exact same thing. Would that like up the scale, or would it mainly just be the same? I mean, if everybody comes out and says, this is what we really want, we want Court Street, Road 100, roundabout, does that like jack it up, or does it mainly stay the same? I mean, I'm just asking,
I understand. So yes, we appreciate public input. I cannot underestimate the amount of data that is used to prioritize things. And so as an engineer, for good or for bad, I make decisions based on data. And so we take into consideration crash data, analysis on volumes, and then prioritize based on that. Similarly, as we talk about different treatments for addressing an issue, we look at the possibilities of how to solve that and evaluate which alternative is the one that produces the best results. At the same time with, balancing use of resources. And so that is a equilibrium that we try to have. And yes, we value input. We want to know where people are experiencing issues, but certainly at the time of prioritizing, we're also looking at data.
Okay. Well, again, I know sometimes you have data and how many people get hit and stuff like that moves it up, but then at the same time, we don't want anybody getting hit. So again, this is what another frustration you can only do so much with so much money. But as council, I will say, if you walk down Court Street at night on the pathway, where there's some people that, if there was a cop there, man, he'd be giving ticket after ticket after ticket, because it's sometimes it feels like a racetrack, and I'm not wearing a helmet. So, but anyway, so I don't want to talk all the time. Let's go with Councilman Grimm, and then we'll work this way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Director Sarah, for your presentation. Thank you for all your work on this. And I know why we have been successful in getting so many grants. I've had a couple of different little birdies tell me you are excellent at writing grants. So thank you for all the funds you're able to get us for the city of Pasco. And I look at this list, and, holy smokes, we are a growing city, and there's just a vast amount of projects. It's almost just pretty overwhelming, just the financial impact and just the needs of the city. And so I really appreciate you prioritizing and getting these all the way down. Even the very last one, I mean, it's like number 52, but just the sign reflectivity analysis implementation, how important that is. I mean, I've seen the new signs with the red strips down and the larger stop signs. Those things really do help. And there's so many, crashes at intersections, like I was just talking about earlier in my reports, the comprehensive safety plan, that I think those things really will help. So I appreciate you including that on the list. I see over there, just in my district, the traffic analysis for US 12 and just how important the need is over there. I mean, there's so much focus on West Pasco, but just over there, I mean, there's a huge need with congestion, and we've had some serious accidents over there. I just want to ask a specific question, though. Up towards the top of the list, I see Court Street. It was one of the new ones added, the pavement preservation south, not Court Street, south 68 between 182 and Court Street there. And just not to get too far in the weeds, but I look at that section of the roadway, especially between I-182 and Argent, and think, aren't we planning on widening that at some point anyways, between Argent and the interstate? And how does that, because I didn't see it on the list, and how does that get prioritized? I mean, I drive up 68 every day, and my old war wagon bounces up and down. It really needs help too. But if you could just talk briefly about the priorities there, and perhaps when maybe 182 to Argent might end up on this list.
Yes, so this project addresses specifically pavement preservation, the one that you're seeing in number 16. And the reason for it is there's the opportunity to apply for funds through a national grant, which is specific to pavement preservation. This is, I believe, the last corridor that the city is to overlay, utilizing the funds through that program. And so we incorporated it because we had already kind of tackled the other corridors that were eligible, and that is NHS corridors, so National Highway System corridors. So that you're seeing that project there. We have areas that have been recently incorporated and others that were city. So it's a combination of kind of joint jurisdiction, which sometimes made it hard to do pavement preservation. And therefore, now that the vast majority is city, we have worked with the county, and we have collected information, and we're able to address those needs for pavement preservation specifically. As far as widening, we did find that the prior TIP did not include a widening, but our CIP did, and we did some research, and we believe it was prudent to wait until our transportation system master plan was updated, which is underway, and determine whether that project was adequate and consistent with our patterns of development, and whether that needed that additional lane or not. It was going to be a pretty expensive project, and knowing what we know about grant funding, we thought that it wasn't very prudent to add it to this list yet. Of course, if this is something that you really want to see added, we could add it. It could be, our addition maybe after item 44, could be item 45, and then we have it in the list, and we keep an eye out for it and see what the results of that TSMP tells us, right, with the new land use and volumes and so on, to identify exactly what is needed. That is in areas it is 2 lanes, in areas it's 3 lanes, and so if we were to widen, like, is this a 5-lane corridor. 5-lane might be excessive. And then 4-lane has the problem of the left turns, right? So there's some further analysis that are going to be needed to support the widening as we understand it. And I do have my engineering manager in the audience in case he wants to add anything. But I think that's why we have what we have today in the list.
Okay, no, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, and I'd much rather have an overpass than, that wide. No, and I appreciate all your work on it. And I've got an idea for pavement preservation too, that maybe I can catch you and the city manager offline and try to work through or whatever to preserve more of our roadways. So thanks again for all your work.
Well, thank you, Councilman Grimm. And just in case you don't know, I mean, we do appreciate all the work. We appreciate all the grants. I know sometimes members up here on the dais don't say it, but I know we all do really appreciate you guys, everything you can do to make Pasco a better place and the roads better. It's always appreciated. I'm not seeing anybody else's lights. And Councilman Perales, do you have anything you'd like to mention or have a question?
I have a comment. I sent the email off earlier. I just want to put it on the record. I would like to see a potential project, a enhanced crosswalk at Road 44 and Hilltop Drive. And really, across the whole city, I think we should be partnering with the school district to find funds to enhance our crosswalks for our kids. So here's my plug. It's for the kids. It's not for me. It's not for my district. It's for our children who are trying to get to school in the mornings. And we all know we have a speeding problem, and we want that dedicated traffic unit. So, but this came across my emails, and I've had phone calls about this intersection, but I really just want to say we need to be doing this, enhancing our crosswalks across the whole city. So I'll go ahead and put that on the record. Also, too, I like where Mayor Pro Tem Milne was going with the roundabout, and I think we should probably seek out, like we're doing right now, comments from the public about what they would like to see done first as a priority. I know we have a list of stuff, and staff gets together the data and stuff and then believes that we should go after funding for this project or that one. But I think from time to time we should really sit down and really look at this list and decide which ones we believe should be a priority, and kind of compare that to what the community believes is a priority, and then direct staff to go seek funding for those projects. So that's just my 2 cents, and I'll yield. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Councilman Perales. So with that,
May I address one of the comments? I appreciate the email. I received it. We appreciate making us aware of crossing issues. And then as far as collaborating with school district, our engineering team has a standing meeting with school district staff specifically to discuss future projects and support for infrastructure surrounding schools. Every 2 years, there is a call for projects for grant funding specific to Safe Routes to School. And historically, we've been successful. We actually are about to put out to bid a project for 2 crossings that were highlighted. And so this will be added to our recurring conversations, and we will identify this and any other location that can be paired up so that it's an attractive project for funding. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for the comments.
Thank you.
With that, I'm not seeing any other ones, so I want to open it up for a public hearing and hear from the public. So with that, and people that would like to speak, we'll give you 3 minutes. Please, again, bring your comments to just 3 minutes. And with that, I'd like to know, do we have anybody from the audience that would like to speak on this topic? Mr. Green.
My name's Dallas Green. I live in West Pasco. Real quickly, Project 20, Road 100 and West Court intersection. I recognize the comments tonight about roundabout or stop or signal, and I really believe living nearby, we should look at a roundabout. It will allow flow, but also slow traffic. I think a signal, because I'm a traffic engineer in my dreams, not in real life, I think a signal will allow people with a steady green at night or whenever just a bomb down that street. So if we have a roundabout, that works 24/7. Project 28, pedestrian bike safety on West Court between 96 and Harris. The 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, believe it or not, Councilwoman, is working pretty well. It's slowed, I believe, anecdotally, the average speed. But we still need the radar feedback signs that the council voted for, and also the striping. And I know there's some engineering involved in that, getting some approvals done in that, but we are now in the spring season. As you know, that path is busy. It's busy at night, it's busy during the day, and people are inches away, and he's not kidding when he sees it. Coming up on that, look at that project, $7 million, that's number 28. That's a lot of money that we hope to get someday. And I think that's kind of a pie in the sky. And, you know, as you know, I've brought a lot of residents to these meetings, 50 some at a time. They're terrified of Sylvester Street. I don't know anyone that goes down Sylvester and thinks it's a workable street plan. And residents on that street don't like it. You have vehicles delivering FedEx, UPS, whatever, they're having to stop in the roadway. And we just cannot allow that to be repeated, not just on West Court Street, but anywhere in the city. So if Project 28 moves forward, I do believe there should be some public input, and that needs to be considered in what's done, as well as looking at stats. But we need to make sure that we've got something that's workable for all parties, the users of the trail as well as the residents. Last thing real quick, I think the traffic improvement plan, you know, is always kind of a reactive thing, fixing problems. And I really want to address, you know, what are we doing with developers to make sure we're not chasing the problem 10, 20 years later? And I think the city has to think about that when they're looking at their planning and when they issue permits, how they issue permits. Look at what Ken Oak's done with fire stations, creating a special district in effect, where if you want to build in this zone, you're going to contribute as a developer to fire protection. You're also going to contribute, in my book, to traffic flow. We notice people 300 and some feet out. Why aren't we making those developments pay for traffic impact 300 and some feet out or more? And I think it's going to really start at the planning level with your input. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else from the audience that would like to talk about this? My second call. And third and final call for public comments regarding the topic. Not seeing anybody. So again, thank you for that. So we're going to close the public hearing. And with that, we'll move on to number 9, ordinances and resolutions not related to hearings. And we have number A, resolution number 4601, setting a date to consider a notice of intent to commence annexation proceedings for SG Management LLC and Oregon Farms LLC annexation. And again, we got, it's going to be a report from Haley Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, Council. Tonight before you is a resolution to establish a date to consider the intent to annex these two properties in Pasco. And when the date is set, then we will review the details with Council, and then eventually we'll have another meeting for the official annexation proposal. So this is part of the process. The applicant has met all the procedural requirements to staff, so we're forwarding it to the group to set a public or a meeting date to consider this notice on June 2nd. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have any other questions before we do a motion? I'm not seeing any. We'll give Mr. Perales a second, but
nothing to add, sir.
Okay, well, with that, I'd like to get a motion from Mr. Harpster.
I move to approve resolution number 4601, setting 7:00 p.m. June 2nd, 2025 as the time and date for a public meeting with the initiators to consider the SG Land Management LLC and Oregon Farms LLC notice of intent to commence annexation of short plat 2021-08 Lot 2 and short plat 2022-32 Lot 1, property located south of Burns Road and east of Shoreline Road in Section 12, Township 9 North, Range 28, east westernmost.
Second.
Thank you. So we have the motion by Councilman Harpster and a second by Councilwoman Blaisdell. And with that, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Looks like that one carries unanimously. So we're going to go on to B, resolution number 4602, setting date and time for right-of-way vacation public hearing for Wanderack. And again, Ms. Miller.
Thank you. This is also a resolution to set this is a public hearing date for right-of-way vacation for Wanderack, and this is a property located over on 2502 North 4th Avenue, and this is a fueling station, and the front portion of their property that faces the street has a right-of-way there, and this was initially brought to staff in 2024, and we were researching whether the state owned it or the city owned it, and we landed on the conclusion that the city of Pasco does have ownership over this, so the applicant will be proposing to vacate this portion, and council will be hearing this matter during a public hearing on this date if the date is set tonight. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions from council? I'm not seeing any. So with that, can I get a motion, Mr. Harpster? Councilman Harpster.
I move to approve resolution number 4602, setting 7 o'clock p.m. Monday, June 16th, 2025, as the time and date for a public hearing to consider the vacation of a portion of right-of-way along North 4th Avenue in Pasco, Washington, and waiving the requirements for an appraisal, title report, and payment of compensation.
Second.
So we got a motion by Councilman Harpster and a second by Councilwoman Blaisdell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say thank you. All those opposed say nay. Again, passes unanimously. So with that, we're going to move on to item C, which is resolution number 4603, setting date and time for right-of-way vacation public hearing for Pasco School District. And again,
Thank you. A little bit of repetition tonight here. So this resolution is for the school district, and they are proposing to vacate parts of the right-of-way along North Utah Avenue and then East Salt Lake Street on their property boundary. There's a jog that goes into their site, and it looks like they don't need that much room to provide the frontage improvements. And then there will be also a dedication on North Welch Avenue to facilitate North Welch Avenue extension. So the date proposed for this is June 16th. I'm happy to answer any questions.
okay, thank you for that, Director Haley Miller. Do we have any questions from the council on this? I'm not hearing any. So with that, I'd like to get a motion from Councilman Harpster.
I move to approve resolution number 4603, setting 7 o'clock p.m. Monday, June 16th, 2025, as the time and date for a public hearing to consider the vacation of a portion of North Utah Avenue and East Salt Lake Street right-of-way in Lot 1, Block 18 of Fraze Addition to Pasco, Washington, and a North Weehee Avenue dedication of Lot 1, Block 19 of Fraze Addition to Pasco, Washington.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Harpster and a second by Councilwoman Blaisdell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So we have an aye there. So again, passes unanimously. So we're going to move on to 10, unfinished business. I'm not seeing anything, so let's move on to 11, new business. Again, I'm not seeing anything listed, so let's move on to number 12, miscellaneous discussion. And it looks like we got Mr. Eric Ferguson, lawyer.
I'm actually going to have Director Miller start off with an update for city activities that have been happening.
Okay.
Thank you. Quick update for the group. We had a third-party canvasser start with the City of Pasco this last Monday. I believe it was the 12th. So they have been out there 5 days in a row, and they were able to make contact with five different vendors and move them along and educate the vendors on the process. So far, 5 for 5. I'm not guaranteeing they're not going to come back into the area or end up somewhere else, but the 5 that we were able to make contact with were asked to move along and pack up, basically, if they weren't able to show they had the proper approval. So I believe it's going well. If you do see a roadside vendor out in a location consistently and want to let me know, feel free to email, I guess, Dave and CC me and let me know, and we can emphasize those areas for you. But so far, it's going well.
All right. Well, thank you for that update. Was there anything else from staff that would like to, Mr. Ferguson?
Yeah, so essentially, I just wanted to circle back. Last time we talked about this a couple weeks ago, the kind of the marching orders, as I understood them anyway, was to make sure that we looked at this issue with the other cities, get a sense of what our other neighbors are doing, and then also see if there's just something that we don't have that everybody else has, kind of a silver bullet. Is there just something that is this just new to us, kind of thing? So we did a couple things in order to start that process. The main thing we did was we reached out to Richland, Kennewick. Didn't hear back from Richland, but I did have an extended conversation with the city attorney for Kennewick, which was kind of a nice treat. We were able to really dig into this issue quite a bit, and essentially, I think the article, a lot of folks saw the article in the paper, and it talked about kind of what their approach is. But essentially, excuse me, they're not too worried about it. That was kind of the takeaway that I got, and that's not from the city attorney. That's not his assessment. That's just based on the conversations that it sounds like that have been dealt with. It sounds like it hasn't been as prolific, maybe. I don't know if that's the right use of that word in this sense. But it also it seems to be the issue that they were addressing they felt it was more related to seasonal aspects, in terms of that it goes away pretty quick after this kind of the spring kind of run at it, and then they really weren't getting a whole lot of complaints. It sounds like that. I don't mean to be putting words in their mouth. This is just kind of my assessment from the conversations in the article. But so it doesn't sound like they're in any hurry to try to do anything about it, and they're just going to kind of stand down and stay where they're at. The other thing that we did was I took the effort to get on what's referred to as the WASAMA listserv, which is the Washington State Association of Municipal Attorneys, and put out a very specific inquiry related to this. It's one of the few times where we can do that where we don't have to worry about any kind of privilege, because obviously this is a big issue that we're not seeking legal advice. We're just trying to gather policy advice online. So I received a whopping 0 responses from about 200 to 300 attorneys statewide. So normally someone will just ping you and say, how's the weather over there? But I didn't even get that. So yeah, I was disappointed in that. I thought for sure that there would be a little more out there. One of the things that did come out of my conversation with the Kennewick city attorney was that apparently their current city manager was the former city manager in Battleground, and she was she had stated, or he told me that she'd stated that they had tried to address something like this in Battleground and to take a peek there. So we did. We went to Battleground, looked at their statute or their code sections, and unfortunately, it's not really helpful. I see why people might think that it would be a little more helpful because of the way it's titled. It's called mobile food units, and so it looks like it might be a little different than what we're normally looking at. But essentially, when you read it, it is essentially the exact same thing as what we do under mobile vendors. Now, the one little nuance, they have this description of where a mobile food unit has to be must have, quote, wheels and be attached and be readily movable. So clearly that's not anything remotely close to what we're talking about with this situation. So anyway, I guess a long way to say that Battleground wasn't a whole lot of help. We didn't that wasn't really what we were looking for. So with that being said, really what we're stuck with is kind of, on our own in terms of like really kind of pioneering this and seeing, okay, what would this look like and what do we have? So to that analysis, that's really where kind of the legal analysis kicks in. And this statute is very interesting. It's very broad. I don't know if for folks like me who get excited about stuff like this was actually originally passed in 1897. That is 9 years after statehood, for those that are keeping track at home. And it was really interesting because the title of the act in the Session Law of 1897 stated that it was an act to permit farmers, gardeners, and manufacturers to dispose of the products of their labor. So that was essentially the overarching title of it. It's changed a few times in terms of adding some language. They struck some language that talked about that they struck out a bunch of fish and milk and poultry and stuff like that. But long and short of it is, it's really been around for a long time, and pretty much it's standard form. It shall be lawful for any farmer, gardener, or other person without license to sell, deliver, or peddle any fruits, vegetables, berries, butter, eggs. So it's still pretty close to the way it started, and there's been a few iterations. But really, what it comes down to is the statute that we start with really is an exception to, and these are rare situations when the legislature. Maybe not so rare anymore, but they used to be rare situations when the legislature would really preempt local government's authority to regulate certain things. And so this was kind of an extraordinary thing that really limits the local government's ability to regulate something. So it really just takes it off the table the way it's drafted. So it's a very strong, broad statement right at the get-go. I'll just refresh everybody's recollection here. It shall be lawful for any farmer, gardener, or other person without license to sell, deliver, or peddle any fruits, vegetables, berries, eggs, or any farm produce or edibles raised, gathered, produced, or manufactured by such person, and no city or town shall pass or enforce any ordinance prohibiting the sale by or requiring license from the producers and manufacturers of farm produce and edibles as defined in this section. So that's a really broad statement there, and so broad, in fact, that that's why it's accepted in our mobile vending stuff. So, and as we talked about last time, this is really this one little narrow area, which is we're not talking about folks that are selling food, any kind of food products that's been produced or manufactured anyway. We're talking about produce, and that's not as clear either in some of our analysis in terms of trying to analyze, does that include flowers, which we do believe it does based on the statute. So anyway, long and short of it is, what it really comes down to is we're really talking about this narrow little area we know we can't regulate. The statute couldn't be clear that we can't require a license on private property. We know we have our mobile vending requirements or our ordinances that allow to regulate who can sell these food products, and then those do allow some use of the right-of-way, but it's very specific in our code as to how that can be utilized. Then we have people who sell certain things along the roadway that we know we can regulate that, like products, things that they may sell, kites or what have you. Other items, excuse me. So we know that those can be regulated. So this is just one of those really narrow situations where you have a statute that says you otherwise can't regulate this activity, but you do have, these are your rights of way. This is the local government does have the ability to regulate what goes on in the right of way. So it's a nuance. I will say this though, the one thing that really, one of the things that we start to look at, well, would there be a way to have, say, a permit for this type of activity, since you're essentially giving someone the ability to be in your right of way to sell, to engage in this activity. And we know we can actually regulate this activity on private property if somebody calls the police department and they come out and say, get them off of my property, right? That's trespass, right? So what would be the equivalent of a civil situation where the local government may or may not be willing to give its permission to be in the right of way? So our thought was, well, maybe this would be some kind of permit, not a license in the sense of like a business license, but some kind of a permit to do a certain activity in a certain place. And that's not going to work. If it's specifically related to this activity, a permit and a license are going to be looked at interchangeably. One of the Cornell Law School, they have a website that does a lot of definitions, and license is defined multiple different times in the RCWs, not in this particular section, so it kind of amalgamates them all. But the definition that really seems to be stated over and over again is generally a license is permission granted by qualified authority permitting a licensee to do something that would otherwise be prohibited. License may also refer to the physical document granting such permission, sometimes referred to as a permit. So there we're right back to where we started. So I think there could be a way to regulate your right-of-ways in a way that would make sure that anybody engaged in any particular activity had to adhere to certain standards. We have some guardrails kind of outside of that. Don't block traffic. We have some kind of criminal statutes that if they're really causing some kind of disorderly conduct or something like that, those are clear. But you would have to be unrelated to this specific activity. So what I'm getting at is we were hoping that there would be a very precise tool that we could find and utilize and give the council an option to adopt a policy that would really engage in just regulating this one particular aspect. And I don't think I don't think we're going to be able to get there from here. I think the way it's going to have to go is you're going to have to really look and say, this is about permission to be in the right of ways for all activities, and they're all going to require a certain amount of licensing. But if it's specifically related to this activity, it's going to be viewed as requiring a permit to do an activity that the state says that you're otherwise allowed to do. So with that, sorry, I don't mean to go on and on, but we've had quite the law school debates about this. So anyway, happy to try to answer any questions, but a whole lot of talk to tell you that this is new, and this would be something that that would have risk.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Ferguson. Do we have something from Councilman Grimm?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Mr. Ferguson, for digging in and trying to get to the bottom of this and really just giving us more information than what we had before. And I appreciate that. Just a couple follow-up questions. The first one that comes to mind, I guess I don't think anybody has an issue with what's going on private property. I mean, ultimately, that's for those property owners to deal with and all that. The complaints that I've heard are especially along the Road 68 corridor when they are on the sidewalks. Perhaps maybe it's a fruit, maybe it's a knickknack, but here's the light changing, and suddenly you're waiting for heavy traffic already, and people to set down their phones in their cars, and now we have to wait for a transaction to finish. And so I think the right-of-way regulation is that's the feedback I've heard from the community that I think just creates a safety concern, and so I don't know if there is a way of pursuing or a resolve to do so. But the other aspect, I mean, are we liable for this if there is an issue there? I mean, do we have a liability in this? And what can we do to mitigate our liability? Or, I mean, can we name the state as a, I guess,
third party.
Yeah, thank you. Need a lawyer to straighten it out for me. But, I mean, what do we do with that?
That's a great question, and I think it's an open question, and I certainly obviously wouldn't want to speculate about it in this venue, but that is something that we would want to look at, because I think those risks are always there. Anytime that you have something that is controlled by the city, that's something that you're going to want to be careful to make sure that you knew or should have known that you're regulating, or that you're taking any kind of safety precautions. So again, I don't want to try to give legal advice in open session, but I am worried about that.
Okay, yeah, and I guess that would just be my one concern. Again, private property is private property, but again, I look at one of the busiest intersections in the entire Tri-Cities where, it's prone to crashes, it's prone to safety issues, so much so that we've put a red light camera there to try to mitigate some of those. And so I guess that would be the one thing that, I would hope we would have the resolve to maybe move forward is just in those areas to look at that. But that's just my opinion. Thank you again for all your work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
And thank you, Councilman Grimm. Do we have any other staff? I know we have a Memorial Day agenda here, so if I could probably get
I will actually just hand it over to Director Rice, who'll talk about the upcoming event and then do a brief update on Memorial Pool.
Okay, thank you for that.
Good evening, Councilor Mayor. Yes, so next Monday, Memorial Day service at City View Cemetery, starting at 11 a.m. So looking forward to host that between, again, 11 and 12 noon. We'll have one of our own staff as our primary speaker, as well as the mayor to kick that event off. So also make note that no council meeting next Monday, because that will shift to Tuesday as well. I think more on that if we need, but otherwise I do have an update on our Memorial Pool Dome project I want to share with you, some of the progress that we've made, some of the items that we've discovered, and some additional expenditures due to those, so that council is up to date as we try to wrap up this project in the next week and bring that project bid closure to you soon. So brief update, 2018, the city recognized the need to have a year-round swimming pool in the community, and decided to add an air dome cover project to Memorial Pool to the capital improvement plan. 2024, City Council approved the purchase of the pool dome cover, so manufacturing could begin for delivery in 2025. And then just this March, the city awarded EFS Construction the contract to install the pool dome foundation and deck totaling $757,000 for completion prior to the general pool opening. So kind of brought us up to date. As with several projects, particularly something that was built in the 1950s and has been remodeled through the years, there are several unknowns that have been discovered since construction started, resulting in about 64,000 of approved or pending change orders to allow planned public opening of the pool. The change orders will be presented as part of the project acceptance, but wanted to review them now as we are incurring the costs as the project completes. Further delay to the pool usage impacts our lifeguard training, resulting in delays to general pool opening and swim lessons. So if we hadn't kept moving forward, it just kind of cannonball right into the middle of summer, which we've been trying to avoid, especially with the start of our swim lessons. So a couple examples of these. Shade structure, we had a pretty large shade structure that was installed several years ago. We found that the contractors found the foundation encroached in the pool decking area that we needed to replace. And not only did it encroach, it was a very large chunk of concrete holding that in, so it required additional labor and equipment to remove. We found an unknown manhole in the parking lot requiring a reset for future access and maintenance. We think this is from the 2009 construction project when we did the last remodel there. So you can kind of see it buried in the middle, but that required resetting and setting to the level of the parking lot so we can maintenance that in the future. The previous pool remodel backfill was unstable. You see it's a combination of this pea gravel and the sand. It was continuing to fall in, so it required additional labor and forms to stabilize for the new pour. They located the original abandoned pool deck, which I think would have been from 2 remodels ago. You can see this rebar on the left side of the picture that needed to be cut out and removed. Not only the removal, but then we needed to procure additional concrete to help fill that back to the deck level. And then a couple of additional things. We paid for a couple extra work days or overtime for they're working 4/10 schedule, so either Friday or Saturdays to help round out those days, keep the project moving. Additional labor materials to support the installation of the bulkhead, which is ultimately the pool lane divider that we'll use when the dome covers on to expand swim opportunity. Discovered unknown fiber optics line, gas line, and fence line that all intersected together in the same spot, so we've worked on moving those things around. Labor and industry required some electrical bonding to reduce stray electrical current throughout the system, and then some additional electrical changes related to changes in the foundation. But the project is on track to be completed by May 26th. Facility staff have been given the go-ahead to start draining the water out of the pool and then filling up this week. Recreation staff will perform lifeguard certification in the following weeks. We'll slip in a quick swim meet, and then the pool will be open to the public on June 14th. Everything progresses as planned this week. And then pool dome delivery will be in September with installation to follow right after the end of the swim season in October. So far on track, but as council has asked before, they'd like to hear about some potential changes before we expend them. This is kind of like the middle ground because I'm expending them, but I'm giving you the heads up that I'm spending them. So hope to be a little bit more project timing where we can stall the project and seek permission first, but doing the best we can to tell you what's going on. With that, any questions?
Do we have any questions from the council? I'm not seeing anything, so thanks for the update, Director Rice. I do appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, I'm not seeing anything else. So We're going to jump to number 13, which is the exec session, and I'm not seeing anything listed, so hallelujah on that. And so at 9 o'clock, we are adjourned. Thank you. I'm always hitting the thing.
We'll move on to item number 10, which is unfinished business. There is none listed. We'll move on to item number 11, which is new business. It's a number. There are 3 items. Sorry, Dave. Did I cut you off? All right. Just, with the mics not working right, I just want to make sure I'm not missing something. We'll move on to item number 11, which is new business. Item A is transportation impact fees study, Fair and Pierce, and that's going to come from Deputy City Manager Hugh Sigdell, who's not celebrating her birthday this week.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and evening council. I would like to introduce Kendra Breland. She's representing Fair and Pierce, a leading transportation planning and engineering firm. They have extensive experience in planning and designing transportation systems, and they're very innovative in their solutions for urban growth and infrastructure challenges, which we're very well aware of. And she will be presenting updates on Pasco's transportation impact fee process and talking about the process itself and how it helps manage growth and fund some critical transportation projects, and also, and probably more importantly, ensure smooth development process for our community. And with that, welcome, Kendra.
We can turn now on the base.
There we go. Thank you very much. And good evening, Council. Again, my name is Kendra Breland from Fair and Pierce. And I'm going to I've got a fairly lengthy presentation here. I'm very open if you want to ask questions as we go, or if you want to wait until the end. Either way is fine with me. So first of all, just a few kind of basic slides. What are transportation impact fees? They are one-time charges paid by new development. They were authorized under the 1990 Growth Management Act. And generally, they're provided to fund improvements that are needed to serve new development. So can't go towards things like filling potholes or addressing existing problems that we have on our transportation system.